Hello, everybody. It's me, Lemoni. Happy Friday. And today we're going back to our roots a little bit here. And you'll see I've got the old New World database behind me. And we're going to be doing a classic build guide, something I haven't done for a while, something that my channel has been primarily, but I think it's time to do another one. Here's a little build today I'll be giving you that I've been having a ton of fun with. I'm excited to go back to my roots and start to dig into this stuff again. And I have some other really solid builds planned for the next couple weeks. So we're going to be doing build guide, attributes, gearing, gems, all the stuff that I would have normally done, talking rotation, talking how to play it, right? So everything everybody's used to. So today, what I'm going to be doing is covering this build with a life staff and a void gauntlet that I've really been enjoying healing with in OPRs. I see it as more of a fun OPR healing build, but it's certainly something you can run in a war with proper peel, and you can definitely get more tanky with it. If you're curious to see more of this kind of footage, this is a build we've talked about a lot in my Twitch chat, which reminds me I stream on Twitch Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 11 a.m. Central Time, and that's pretty consistent. Also follow the rest of the socials that are below. Support my Patreon if you want to. But this is something we've been talking a lot about in chat. It's a build I've been pondering about. And then my friend Rajan has been giving some insight. Harry's been there too, talking about it a bit. I'm going to link. Rajan is looking to start a YouTube channel, start giving some footage on his healing stuff, and he will be linked below. But what are we doing for this build? So it's light armor, LSVG. So let's get into it. Healing wise, everybody knows left side stays the same. I guess I'll do a little bit of a deep dive in case you're new to the channel or new to healing. But right here, absolved. Actually, I'm gonna change one thing up, and I'm gonna talk about this. Absolved. You need this, just no question. We don't want to consume mana when we're using light attack. Blissful touch, one of your strongest heals. Heals every single person you shoot it through, and I'm getting mine sometimes when they have proper buffs up to hit for 1,000 per, which is absolutely insane. Sacred ground, we're gonna get all the way in, increasing healing effectiveness. This is a beautiful thing. Cooldown reduction, cooldown reduction. So when we're light attacking, I say ABC, always be clicking. When you hit somebody with a light attack, it reduces cooldown by 5%. And then whenever you heal somebody who's below 50% health, we get cooldown reduction by 10%, triggered every 5 seconds. Now this can stack, and then we have more cooldown reduction as we keep going into other things, but we'll take Sacred Protection, 5% passive increase to people in your group. So it's not going to be everybody, but at least the people in your group. Counts as a buff for Light's Embrace. Intensify, you're going to weave in 3 heavy attacks. And because you're running Refreshing Move on your life staff as well, you're going to get some cooldown reduction there. That Refreshing Move really synergizes well with Revitalize, but you're going to maintain a 3-stack Intensify as much as you possibly can. Just throwing a heavy attack out there once in a while is not too hard to do. Now, the last point I want to talk about on the left side is actually the Mending Touch versus Enchanted Justice right now. Personally, removing 1 debuff through an ally by using your heavy attack, I've thought about this a lot. I use it. It's tough to hit, and sometimes it does not have much value. What have I been doing as of lately? I've been taking Enchanted Justice. I think the way that Mending Touch works and how hit or miss it is, and the fact it only removes 1 debuff and we can't control that debuff, and it's not an AoE circle like it used to, and you can't remove debuffs off of yourself, I think that kind of gets rid of a lot of its usefulness, where I would rather almost just take the 4-meter healing radius, 8% of your weapon damage each second for 6 seconds on a 2-minute cooldown, which is slightly ridiculous in my opinion. I would rather take this over Mending Protection or Mending Touch in PvP. That's my personal opinion right now. And then Divine Blessing, just a heal increase when they're below 50% health. Nuts. Just on top of everything else. What am I doing in this build? I think this one really, really, really works well when you're running an orb, because the way that the Void Gauntlet works is essentially its orb replaces your beacon. And I think this is a really fun way to do it. You also get so tanky when you run this orb setup. So we're going to take orb and we're going to put all the points in. This makes it so you can hit people way easier. You don't have to shoot it through people like a Blissful Touch. You can shoot at the ground. Everybody in that 3-meter radius then gets it. This gives yourself, fortify and recovery whenever you hit somebody with your orb. And then this makes it so that you get the recovery on your orb. So you get a hot, you get fortify, and it is a long, long, long time. Over 20 seconds of fortify and 20 seconds of healing. The rest of the points I'm going to go, Bend Light, Protector Strength, easy healing increases. Just do a little dodge, you're good to go. And then I take Protector's Touch into LE. So Protector's Touch, 15% Fortify for 3 seconds whenever you hit an enemy. This is basically up all the time because we're always left clicking and you're hitting somebody whenever you left click pretty much all the time because it just flies through. This is then that 10% Fortify, meaning we sit around 25% Fortify just pretty passively, and then in our back pocket we have Enchanted Justice. So you have a lot to help you stay alive, comboed with Hots. And then LE is just the ultimate heal, single target, God heal. So this is what I would suggest for a Life Staff setup. Now on the Void Gauntlet, let me reset this for you. This is where we're going to focus more on a little bit of cooldown reset, but primarily utility, but a super, super big heal out of Orb of Decay. So Orb of Decay, if you don't know, you'll launch it out, does some damage, and then on the way back, it has a healing component that you can also pop. The heal is pretty on par with Beacon's heal. It's obviously shorter, and it's sometimes a little bit harder to get out, but I'm going to tell you some ways you can reduce cooldown that make them come out constantly. But the heal you get, plus if they're in a Sacred Ground, all that stuff, it's insane how good it is mixed with, Orb with Mending Protection procs on your gear inside of a Sacred Ground. We go Orb of Decay, we take all the points in, and I rarely ever pop it just because I'm constantly weapon swapping, but you also have the option. The other really beautiful thing about Orb of Decay is you have no overlap. If you aren't aware as a healer, sometimes there's other healers running same abilities, right? If both of you are running Orb and both of you throw orbs at people, it's going to take the best Orb at that time, right? Or the most recent one. This is typically not something you see a lot of people running. So meaning you have a free hot that not really anybody's going to contest because the majority of people in OPR are running a rapier, and you just get more healing. It's also amazing when people are clumped up. You throw an orb, sacred, double orb, and you have insane amounts of AoE healing, and I'll show that later. And it is just a blessing. So then we're going to go into Refreshing Harvest. One big way to get your cooldowns reduced. We just sit there holding right click. And because we do end up taking Mending Evasion, when I dodge at full mana, I get healed for like 3k. So this is going to make up for any health lost in the meantime. It's also a nice little back pocket heal. But this will get cooldowns back up while you're walking from point to point, or you're in the middle of a fight. You get a quick mana tick. You can also get 10% off your cooldown. We'll take mana reduction. We do have to take Leeching Bolts, and I just take the other heavy attack one because we ultimately want to get to Glimpse of the Void. So if I launch an orb through and hit 4 people, I can throw a heavy attack out there and reset all of my cooldowns. Or if I scream 4 people, and we'll get into that side, I will have it reset my cooldowns. Beautiful things about orb, you get a dot, you apply a rend. That rend and dot also stack based on explosion if you do it on the damage side, but it will also, if you explode it in a pack of people, give you the 4 stack of Glimpse of the Void, so you can reset it and then throw a heal one out. Again, just another option, but I think where it really comes into handy is the utility it brings in Oblivion and Petrifying Scream reset. Now, Annihilation side, what are we going to do? Crit chance, crit reduction, or cooldown reduction on crit. Those are the absolute most necessaries. We'll take Petrifying Scream all the way in for the 4-5 this and to the Stam regen. I've tested this. This is not worth it. This, in my opinion, is not worth it because it's pretty easy to get our cooldowns back down, so it's just kind of a waste, where we get a lot more value in these two. So just, passive crit chance, and then that cooldown reduction is huge, especially when you start to combo it with like Keen on your Void Gauntlet and things like that. But Scream, this is going to be your like riposte replacement. So it gives you Fortify, right, which is nice. It is only a 1 second route with a 2 second on people below 50% health. It does do some decent damage, and it gives you that time to get away. You can also set up lots of kills with it. And again, like I was saying, we have a lot of cooldown reduction. You crit, you have cooldown that you can do with your right click, and you have the Glimpse of the Void potential. But the big thing is when you throw an orb into a giant pack of people fighting, you not only hit everybody on the way in, you heal your teammates on the way back, but all those hits have the chance to crit. Then those crits can then reduce the cooldown of Petrifying Scream, Orb, Oblivion. So there's just so much good crit opportunity that's kind of hard to pass up. And then as far as Oblivion goes, Oblivion, you can use it for a team fight to give some extra damage, give yourself some extra damage, apply that weaken to people and reduce their damage they're doing. But where I really think it's crazy to use Oblivion is I'll just put it on myself in the middle of a fight, and then one, it denies people, right? People are like, oh, I don't want to walk in the Oblivion. It does damage, weakens them. But 15 mana per second is nuts when you're just kind of rolling around in your own little circle trying to kite people around. It's a real solid defensive tech. The other thing you can use it for is denying enemy sacred grounds, right? Sacred ground is completely, if you're running Nullifying Oblivion, which I would highly suggest in this build, you will be able to remove the sacred ground hot. So there's a lot of utility in Oblivion for offense, defense, utility, right? So again, orb, damage and healing, cooldown reduction potential. This is your back pocket. I need to get away from people. Also gives you up to a 30% fortify to kind of take the place of the life staff fortifies. Plus you have orb pretty much constantly. And then Oblivion is just there too. We have cooldown reduction, healing, great stuff. That's the build pretty much. And now let's dig into attributes, gearing, and how to play it. All right, I'm feeling good. I love talking build stuff. It's been a while. As you can tell, I gave you a long, deep dive on just build stuff because that's what I really like about this game is teaching, talking about it, all that stuff. So attributes now. Let's get into it. What do I typically run with my light armor healing setups? I have become a light armor healer for life. This is what I run in OPR. War is a little bit different. I would suggest playing the 100 to 150-ish con, but then there's even the argument of by the time you get caught, is it really worth it? So you pick your poison as far as con goes, but typically I'll play 55, 407 is my split right now, but I will eat a bear food. I always eat a bear food, so that's going to put me up 24 and 16. So this will put my con to about 70, whatever, 70, 71, right? And then just more focus. That's my personal preference. I'll sit at about 9.6-ish K health, and I feel good. I have enough fortify where I don't really have to care. I have the healing output where I just don't care. And if I'm going to get caught out, I'm dead either way, no matter what weapon that I'm using. So it's a lot more positionally based. Focus pump to the moon when you're light. You'll heal more. There's no debate on that. More focus is best, and I feel very, very evasive playing a light loadout. Now, if you do want to, like I had mentioned Ration in the beginning, he is a medium armor user of this, does a little bit different of a build, runs like a 300, 200, and that is another viable option, running medium, even heavy, I guess, with more con, being a point healer and really being that point presence. So certainly check out, again, his channel, but I would say if you're light armor, you go less con, 50 to 100 con. I normally feel comfortable max 100 con and just adjust your attributes accordingly. Now, as far as gearing goes, I will say I have a very, very spicy setup. I'm so excited. I think a real meta breaker. And if you're interested, you can check out my Twitch channel because I'm going to be playing it. But this is what I'm running with the build. As far as gearing goes, I have straight Sage gear, and then on every piece I try to fit in refreshing, but I'm looking for perks. It's like helmet, mending, protection. This is the absolute strongest healing power increase we can get out of a perk. 24% healing increase on targets who are below 50% health. Beautiful thing is, it resets every time it has a hot tick on a player that is below that 50% health. And with how low of a cooldown orb is and how many people can get that hot, that means you have almost constant mending protections going off to just impact all of your heals. On my chest, Nullifying Oblivion, Elia version. I also have a Nullifying Oblivion pant set up so I can get a different chest. This chest is pretty garbo, but it's okay for the time being. Gloves, these are my gloves. Refreshing, Fortifying Sacred Ground. Great increase off of Fortifying Sacred Ground. Just more Fortify to add to the kit. Refreshing, Invigorated legs. Legs aren't that great, but they're kind of my off piece. And then my boots, I have Accelerating Lights Embrace, Refreshing, 2 perk. We're working on that. But that's what I'm doing as far as gearing goes. Jewelry, I have Refreshing Health Neck. I will also suggest running Health Purify if you want to do that because it can really help in the GAIG meta. But honestly, the more that I play against it, I just run Refreshing because I'm just sick of. That's a whole different soapbox. Hardy Sacred on your ring. Hardy Sacred Refreshing would be great. Hardy Sacred, a lot of different things, but Hardy Sacred Ring will change your life. And then I'm running a Misty Kismet, Refreshing Evasion, Purifying Toast. I don't like Purifying Toast, but Refreshing Evasion is great, and I haven't found another earring since then, but that's what I'm really loving right now. The things I will say with gearing. I run Onyxes personally because I see way more physical damage coming in that I have felt. I've tested Diamonds, I've tested Opals, I've tested Malachites, I've tested Onyxes. Right, and I just prefer the Onyx with my setups that I do, and I notice I die less when I'm actually running them, so that is why I do that. The other question you might ask is why do I do a pretty much full refreshing build when I'm running my Rapier and my mega overpowered, I think, meta breaker build. I am in full refreshing gear. Why do I do that as opposed to refreshing evasion? I want to make a video on this eventually, but Refreshing will bring down max cooldowns of abilities, right? So we'll say like Life Staff, we'll just say for instance, I have 10 seconds on a cooldown, right? Like we'll just say Orb is 10 seconds long. We'll say it's brought down to 10 seconds by all the refreshing gear that I'm wearing. So we'll say like 8-piece refreshing, right? The thing people do not realize is that when you have cooldown reductions, such as that on Refreshing Move or Revitalize through your Life Staff tree, or the other, 10% you will get when you heal people below 50% health, that will proc based on max cooldown before refreshing. So that means if I have a 10-second orb, we'll just say, again, just for the sake of math, that I have a 20-second base cooldown orb, but I have a 10-second one. Well, 10% will apply 2 seconds instead of 1 second, right? If we have a 20-second cooldown versus a 10-second, meaning it'll go from 10 seconds to 8, right? Instead of 10 to 9 that you would expect. The thing that's really nice with this is that, one, I just have innately lower cooldowns baseline, but all of my reductions are now based on max cooldown. So I find it to be really nice on things like Rapier, where I'm trying to get riposte off. I love it in a beacon build, personally, just because I can get so much reduction. I just constantly have beacon up. I never have downtime on beacon. So in my opinion, that's why I prefer it, if you're interested. As far as Life Staff, if you don't have a WOTA, I'm not even going to talk about this. If you don't have a WOTA, just go get one. I've been saying this since I've started the channel. And then Void Gauntlet, this is where I have 2 different ones. This is up to your own personal preference. So I have these 2. Right now, I'm really liking the Keen setup because if I have more crit, that means I can try to reset more Screams to peel for myself more. I can set up more Oblivions. I can throw out more Orbs, right? I also go through a lot less mana when I run a Void Gauntlet because I can sit there and right click. But I have Keen just in case. I've been liking it, but this setup with Diminishing Orb, Blessed, and Keen Speed is also really good, right? Keen Speed gives us more getaway with less mobility on the Void Gauntlet as opposed to something like a Rapier. We get our Blessed. Blessed is just necessary. And then Diminishing Orb is a very strong cooldown to reduce debuffs or reduce buffs on anybody you hit in enemy packs. So there is that. But right now, I've been running the Keen one just for more cooldown reset because I think it has more potential personally, but I can definitely see the argument for both ways, 100%. You'll run diamonds in both. People constantly ask, why are you using diamonds? What is that doing for you? Diamonds are the only thing that impact your healing. So when you're at full health, you do 15% more healing and damage. So just keep that in mind. As far as consumables, I eat so many mana pots per day. I'm going to put a mana pot counter someday up there, and I go through hundreds a day. Health pots, these to take off, because I have this on. Just getting rid of bleeds, burns, things like that. Gemstone dust, and then I'm using oak fleshes all the time too. I've been noticing I just use more strong gemstone dust to compensate for any kind of lack of elemental resistance that I have. Just pop it in a panic. And then I use honing stones. My food, bear flank, but you can stack it if you haven't seen any of my other stuff. You can stack it with an energizing hearty meal to get your mana regen, but also get the bear flank food attribute bonus. So you'll have the well-fed buff, you'll have mana regen, and then you'll have stat. That's all for consumables. Let's go into the gameplay. All right, so where do I think the build has the most potential? Honestly, it's when you're pushing in doorways, tight spaces, and when people are packed together. You'll see I'll put down my Sacred Ground. I'll throw an orb out. The Sacred Ground will have the healing effectiveness increase. I'll get the Mending Protection procs, and then I'll also start to throw out my Orb of Decay on my Void Gauntlet, and you'll just see the healing numbers go kind of crazy. It's great for pushes, really, really solid when you have a Gravwell. So it's essentially Sacred Ground, orb, right? You want to make sure you get your healing, your life staff stuff out first, and then you can just heal the rest of the team with orb, and then you just keep rotating through that spot, heal with your Light's Embrace. It's that easy. You just have so much output, you have so much single target potential, but it's like orb takes place of beacon, you have orb of protection with fortify and hot, and you still have Sacred Ground for massive AoE healing. Some other things you can do with it are Void Gauntlet utility, right? So like I was saying, you can put down Oblivions to give yourself some stamina. You can use it for offensive capabilities and help damage output. But you also have Screams in the back pocket. Now use your Scream as a riposte and use it to peel for yourself, or use it to set up kills. And you can run around corners, scream people who aren't expecting it, and really get those picks that your team needs so that they can kind of turn the battle or just chase down that one person you don't like. But honestly, I think the most successful I've seen it is when you're really starting to push into an outpost, an OPR, or you're trying to push through a narrow spot or hold a point, and you just throw that orb out, and the amount of healing is literally on par with Beacon, and we just do everything else we would have normally done. It's a fun build. It gives you more utility, and especially if you've been playing a Rapier for a long time, it's nice just to change things up. And I'm going to preface this again. I think I've found something that will take place of the rapier for me, and I think it is going to break its way into the meta, and not anybody is really playing it yet. So again, if you want to see that, hop on my Twitch channel. But it's a fun build. You excel in team fights. You have more offensive output because of that focus scaling with the Void Gauntlet and everything it's able to do. You do lack some mobility and some peel. But nonetheless, it is a fun build. It gives you more healing output than you would have seen before, and I would highly, highly, highly suggest giving it a shot. As always, I hope you enjoyed the build. I hope you liked me going back to my roots here. And if you'd do me a favor, please like, comment, subscribe, ring the bell, tell everybody you know, and hit the socials down below. I wouldn't be able to do this if it weren't for all of you, but I appreciate you. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And thank you to every single one of you beautiful people for being you. I hope to hear from you soon. Peace.